Welcome back to Convos and Cubans. I am sitting here with my business partner in the solar space, Mr. Garret Jors, and today I have a very, very special friend in the building out of Vegas. He's been in the solar space for over a decade. This is a real professional and an expert, Mr. Cesar Delgadillo. What's up, brother? Welcome.
What's up, man? Thanks for having me here,
Welcome,
guys.
welcome to HQ, bro.
Yes, amazing.
Welcome to
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you,
Thank you,
brother.
brother.
Thank you, man. We have a lot of fun here.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
It gets very
You can feel
passionate.
it. You can feel it.
Right, I think me and Garrett were close to getting into a fight the other day, but it was more of a spiritual. But you know what? It's just because we're both so hungry to win. But you know, we're just very passionate. But there was no cursing. There was no, you know, it's just right. And I remember it reminded me of the early years when me and Sal, my business partner, and the other businesses were building in the beginning. Right, we just wanted so bad, and we're. You know, sometimes we feel helpless and we feel stuck, right? And we're like, we know we can do 100 deals a month. Why are we doing 30, right? So that's where this comes from. And, you know, I'm very blessed, obviously. You know, I believe that at this stage of my life, I have good discernment when it comes to who I collaborate with, who I partner with, you know, who I befriend. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know how it is, bro,
Absolutely.
right? This is our last dance, right? Like we've been through the gutter already.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Well, and imagine the alternative of somebody that doesn't care, right, and isn't passionate about winning. And it's like, would you rather get into those healthy confrontations and those conflicts that actually push the business forward, or to just like be okay with losing, right? And so that's the way I always see it, is if you're not passionate, and our passion, because we are so similar in the way that we approach life and things like that, it looks the same, right? And so when you have something like that, two trains that just want to go, right?
Two monster trucks.
Yeah. Monster trucks, yeah.
I think passion is the difference between winning and losing, because at one point in the game, you got to just will your way through it. And
You're a passionate dude, bro. You know, you get to discover a lot out of a business owner when you get them out, you know, in a competitive sport, right?
Yeah.
You know, we got you out there and started hooping, started playing some basketball. You were in town for the day. You brought in, you know, some of the install guys from Inti, and I got to see you compete, and I got to see the way you carried yourself. I got to see that even when you were tired, you still kept going, right? Yeah. So again, bro, you really get to see a lot about a human being,
right?
Or actually about the man, right? Yeah. When you put him out in a competitive sport like 1000%. Basketball or football, you know?
Yep.
So it was good to see.
I learned you have an incredible shot, bro. So,
oh, thank you, brother. You know what? It's something I've been practicing since I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like at this point, I just got that old man jumper.
He was throwing things over the border.
Yeah. Like, yo, get the flashlight. But brother, first of all, man, the solar space, bro, you know, there's a lot of people in the solar space, right? A lot of people in the solar community, and I still feel that at this very moment, the solar community is one of those like underground,
like underground hip hop,
hidden community. Yeah, it is where hip hop was back in New York, right, in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
That's where the solar industry is, bro.
At the end of the day, it's a small community still. You can travel all over the country, and you know, you meet mutual people, and everybody kind of knows each other. And we've, as a community, we've been through a lot in the last 10 years, you know. And but
yeah,
I stay hopeful and excited about the future, because sometimes we need those corrections. Sometimes we need, you know, we get spoiled, right? Yeah. Solar was so soft at one point. Like my first day in solar, I got 4 deals. 4 site surveys booked on the same side of the street.
Door to door?
Yeah, on the same side of the street.
Yeah.
Right? That's how soft
Vegas?
it was. Down in
Vegas?
Somerton, Arizona, down by Yuma.
Yep.
Okay,
right?
you were doing a little blitz or what?
No, it was down we
What are
lived
you
down
doing
in
in
Somerton.
Somerton,
My family's from Somerton. My
Somerton,
parents
Arizona?
my parents still live down there. And so my very first day, I went out with some guys from Solar City. And dude, they were so excited. They were giving me the money out of their pocket, because you know, we got 4 deals all in like within a couple hours.
Yep.
And it was my first time knocking doors. The only other time I knocked doors was with my dad. He used to sell strawberries, tortillas, and stuff like that.
Let's go.
And we knocked on doors when it was already getting dark, and we, you know, it wasn't safe to park on the side of the street anymore. We would go door to door. So that was my extent of my door to door training, right? But I didn't consider myself a salesman or anything at that point. But when I got out there, just solar made sense. You know, for some people, you know, when something just, the biggest sale is the one that you make to yourself.
So it just clicked.
Right away, it clicked for me. I'm like, of course everyone's going to go solar. Let's go. Let's go talk to folks, right?
Your belief system was there.
100%. From day one, my belief system was there. you kind of feel it. I felt it right away. I approached it like this was going to be a long career, and it has been. I see a lot of people come in here trying to like make a quick money grab because back then we didn't get paid very much. All right, back then Solar City was paying
especially Solar City
$180 a kilowatt.
Yeah.
So a 10 kW was $1,800, and that was to originate the deal,
now
close
you can
it.
make 3, 4, 5, 6 times what
Absolutely.
that is, right?
You know, so people hear these numbers and they get excited. They want to be part of the industry because of the money. I was literally part of the industry because I saw the benefits that solar can create for people. So I've never been one of those who gouges people, right? Or rakes their team or anything like that, because I came from making $180 a kilowatt.
Yeah.
Right. And
so anything above that's a gain.
Your team overrides was just whatever your manager wanted to give you, because it was already structured like a corporation. You didn't really have the opportunity to go out there and build. That came later. Right. And that's when I really got excited. That's when I got to, bring my leadership skills, recruit people, build teams. And that's where, for me, I tell people, we sell solar, but my favorite thing to sell is hope and opportunity. I love team building, bro. And it's almost like true leadership and true team building, though, it kind of got put under attack in solar, because a lot of people, the way a lot of people in solar moved was through like, don't tell anybody your red line, bro. Like, don't say don't mention any red lines.
Gang.
It was very like secretive, and you got owners of dealers.
I didn't even know what a red line was for my first 2.5 years.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing once like the secret got out, because then a lot of salespeople started abusing that situation too, it was all about like a race to the bottom, right? And that's why a lot of companies got in trouble. And I just think that if I look back, because we started with Titan, or we started with Solar City, but when we really started making money is when we got with Titan, right? And when we got with Titan
had its glory years.
Oh man, for like 5 years,
right?
They
it
were
had
like
its
the
glory
number one.
years.
And like the other 4 companies behind them collectively were not doing what they were doing, right? So they were number one by far. And so I was part of the first ever Titan dealer, which was Sun Solar Solutions. Shout outs to Mike and Val and Troy and those guys, right? I didn't even know them though, because I went through another partner at the time. And that partner that we met through a mutual guy from Solar City introduced me to him. He's like, we're gonna work through Titan. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's, whatever. I'm in for, it's $280 a kilowatt, $250 a kilowatt. I'm like, wow, that's way more than over here. So we got going with that, and then as time went, there was just more and more in the pot for the salespeople. When we got started, again, we were the first, and then became the second right away. I didn't even know the first. I still got the text messages. The first proposal I sent was to Val, right?
Really?
And I was sending them like pictures, like the old school way. You didn't have a CRM. We just send them pictures via text. He created a proposal, sent it to me, and that type of stuff. And then my partner says, "Hey, we're moving to do our own thing. We're Spartan Solar now." And I'm like, "All right, bro, I'm with you." Like, see, that's me. Like, if you were my in, you're my in. I'm not gonna circumvent. I'm not gonna, unless there's a reason to. So I stayed away from that. I didn't go into the Titan office. I didn't go in there and like, what kind of deal can I get if I do my own thing, right? I have that level of respect, And I expected people to do the same thing, but it doesn't always work out like that.
That's
right?
very rare in the solar industry, right?
Extremely rare.
and unfortunately, that's what's going on. It's the same thing. Have you ever heard of like where I made a pretty big name for myself, which was in the wholesale real estate industry, right? By the way, mirror industries.
Correct.
One of them does real estate, the other one does solar units, right? Solar panels. But the behavior is very similar.
Almost
right?
identical.
It's crabs in a bucket mentality, because think about it, right? A lot of people in the real estate wholesale space and a lot of people in the solar space, we're uneducated, right? We don't come from rich families. We're hustlers. We come from the street, and we figured out a legal hustle, right? And then with that, unfortunately, it also comes with all of the upbringing and programming that we bring to the industry now
from the streets.
Right? So it is. It's like, You know, that's your gang. This is my gang. You know, I'm not going to share with you what I'm getting. And, you know, if I got one over on you, I'm going to try to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Right. And it becomes very toxic and counterproductive.
Yeah.
To the overall growth of the industry.
Correct.
Right. And the overall growth of the companies. But if people only knew, right, like this is the way I see it. Watch this. I was even thinking this morning, I'm like, who can I go collaborate to grow this company? Right. So what I've noticed, you know, over being 10 years in and watching the way everybody operates in the speaker world, the influencer world, the business world,
Right.
Bro, the right people, right, with the right principles, they collaborate at the top.
For sure.
Yep.
They're not trying to push you down. They're like, how can we cross-pollinate, whether it's ideation, right, masterminding,
Absolutely.
you know, moving together as a group, allies.
Yeah.
You know, if we're allies, you know, if Powervana and now, what are you back to now?
So Real Solar, which is still an
Real Solar,
organization, and collaboration with Apricot.
There it is. So it's like if we were to begin to move like the allies of the World War, or, you know, we would all collectively progress, right, and succeed a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why, in my opinion, you only have like SolarCon and door-to-door the meetups. Like, there's not a lot of. You'll still, because wholesale is so much more mature than solar is right now, you'll still see wholesalers get together to give game, and there's like small people in the solar industry that do it. But for me, it's super interesting because both industries have no
You've been
barrier
in both
to
industries.
For sure, yeah.
And you paid $30,000 to even be a part of a mastermind a couple years ago,
40,
right?
yeah.
40 racks. See, that's where the mindset of a wholesale guy is now. Where, think about it, if I ask somebody right now in the solar space, hey bro, I'm gonna teach you how to market, right? How to build and scale a team, how to create departments, right? How to hire, how to onboard, you know, processes, right? I'm gonna teach you all that. Give me 40 grand.
Right.
They're like, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
hold on.
yeah.
See, because they're not there yet.
They're not mature.
They're not there
They don't
yet,
even
but
want to give 10 grand for.
Oh yeah, exactly.
For
No.
multiple six-figure opportunities.
Yeah.
or
they're
$1
gonna
million
gain.
a year opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Well, so
just from a sales.
I was
point.
in wholesale while I was working for someone who I consider to be like a tyrant leader, right? So I was like, oh, I'll build wholesale on the side, and so I paid the 40 grand to get into Kent Clothier's. I think he calls it billionaire boardroom or something like that. And I'm just sitting there and I know nothing about real estate, and I'm just on the calls and I'm like quiet and I'm like, okay, taking notes. But it's so interesting because there is not a lot of collaboration, which makes no sense because it is an industry full of hustlers and innovators and people that want to do good. But because we do come from the streets, there's no barrier to entry. You don't have to get a license most of the time unless you're installing or unless you're selling in certain markets.
Now.
And, you know, for me, it's a great time because as you watch a lot of these big titans that overextended themselves and a lot of companies that got investors for these leases right now that are going out of business, you see a lot of people that are leaving the industry, which means that this is the best time to stay in the industry.
We called it a year ago, though. Remember? I said the companies that are gonna survive, endure this season, right? They're the ones that are gonna thrive. They're the ones. It's separation season.
It's like market correction. Right?
That's right. Right. The cream is rising to the top. Right. You know, it's like survival of the fittest right now in the solar industry. That's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing. You know, companies from, you know, small little mom and pop shops of, you know, crews that have 3, 5, 10 sales reps, all the way up to the big titans. They're falling apart, right? And what I'm really excited about, by the way, hopefully, like, you know this by now, I'm really excited about real estate and solar over the next 2 years. Like, I'm all in on real estate and solar. And let me just tell you guys this also, right? Watch this. A good wholesaler that's a good businessman can go to the solar space and crush it.
For sure.
Right? Hold on. A solar guy, right? A good, committed, with good work ethic solar guy can go to the wholesale space and crush it. You see how?
Yeah.
Like, bro, if you shut down your solar ops today,
Yeah.
and you were like, Carlos, I want to start wholesaling, I think within 3 months, you would have your first 6-figure month in wholesale. You really would.
Yeah.
I'm telling you the truth.
I've always looked at it from the outside looking in.
Right?
I'll let you finish your point if you're
real, bro. Because when it comes to what people don't understand is that everybody in the solar space thinks it's just a sales game, sales, sales organization, right? Sales teams, right? Door to door. There is no strategy. There is no systemization. Right. In the solar space, people in the wholesale space at some point, when you want to start racking in these 6-figure months, that it's a sales and marketing game. And that's what the solar industry does not understand yet.
Correct.
Kind of.
Yeah.
That's why you're starting to see these like marketing agencies in the solar space, right? They're starting to emerge, right? They're starting to scale because solar guys are like, solar organizations are like, man, this door-to-door stuff is not easy.
Right.
So here comes solar exclusives. Here comes solar cheat codes, right? Here comes these people that are gonna provide, what you're looking for, which are leads.
Yep. Well, and if you look at the natural progression of any sales industry, it always ends up on the phones. Every single sales industry,
100%.
Every single one that was door to door, as it aged,
All of
it
them.
always ended
All
up on the phones, right? And so, for me, what's also important in today's economy and industry, as it is, to me, it's solar is no longer a baby. It's in its pubescent stages where now it's starting to hit puberty. It's getting more regulation. But it's going to get to a point where the dealers are going to have to start demanding financials from the installers as well, because the days of trusting that these installers are financially as you depend on getting paid from them last, those days are long gone.
I don't agree with that.
Well,
I never agree with that.
Correct.
When I came into the solar space.
Yeah.
I never have agreed.
It's like
that,
backwards.
It's ass backwards.
It's way backwards. I'm like, this doesn't even make sense.
When do you work any other contract and the person that works the contract gets paid last? It just doesn't work in any industry like that.
The person that puts in 80% of the work gets paid last.
Well, this is still something that it's already here. We're in a transition.
Yeah.
And we're going to be getting paid directly from a bank. And the installers that are going to play ball with us, they're going to have to they're going to have to accept that business model.
That's right.
Because we're not putting ourselves in a position again to lose $500,000, 7 figures in a span of 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
That's wild. Where you have no control.
Yeah.
Right, you have no control,
and it kills relationships, right? Because even though, say, I work with you guys,
it kills companies, bro.
Yeah, because that's
right. It dismantles companies.
Absolutely, because no matter how you spin it, or what you tell me, or whose fault it was, the fact that I trusted your organization to push business through you, if that installer didn't, that's on you too, right? As a salesperson, that's how they look at it, right? And so we've felt definitely. Like I was, I thought I was on the safe side of that because I had already started hearing stories and people coming to us saying like, "Oh man, this company didn't pay us or whatever," and we're like, "Wow, man, we're blessed. We've never had those issues, right?"
Yeah,
and,
we're special.
Yeah, and then when things started,
special,
when things started, like when the boat at Titan started getting a little shaky, then we started exploring different relationships. And I could tell you, people can say what they want about Titan, but in over 7 years that I participated with them, they never missed a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I heard they were super legit, bro. But I heard that these past couple months, a lot of people got left holding the bag.
Oh yeah.
But that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I felt like, Titan specifically went down swinging, right? Like they were trying to. Stay afloat as long as they could on the way down.
Yep.
Because every business owner, we always believe that we're gonna
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's what happened with them. It was, once that ship started to sink,
correct.
It was almost Titanic style.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm also seeing, I'm foreseeing and forecasting that the industry, you're watching a lot of like some power that just went down. the lease model is not a great business model, right? Because it's a 25-year lease that is fronted cash in the beginning. It's not a loan that you're taking out from a bank. So essentially investors have to loan that whatever organization that is. So that's why when you saw ADT that went under with their solar program, they still actually went and did like a tour. The lady went around and, hey, we're going to pay out on all these jobs. We're going to do this. Right. But with SunPower, that's not the case, supposedly from the email, right? Yeah. Hey, all these jobs are getting canceled. And it's because they're too overextended. So I also don't think that we're going to be pushing a lot of PPAs here in the next year or so. I'm predicting that that's going to be going. People will still push them, but it's not going to be. I don't think they projected that the industry was, because 3 years ago it was 80% loans, maybe 20% PPAs, leases. But there was also 12% dealer fees and 199 or 0% interest on some of these loans, right? Dunk. Yeah, it made no sense not to. Even if your taxable income was not super there for the tax credit, we could still get the pricing at the right point as long as you're not one of these solar bros out here that max PPWs everybody.
The solar bros.
Yeah. Well, that's what I call them, right? Because if you truly, I was very similar in the mindset as you. As I never came in here, I just felt so blessed to have an opportunity to use the skills that God gave me. So
for something good, right?
Yeah, for something good, and I believed in the product. Yeah, I really do. And for me, it's always been about how many people can I serve this week? How many people can I serve today? And I know that as a byproduct of that mentality, I know that I'm going to get blessed in the end as well. Yeah. And it seemed like over the last 2 years, as we've seen a lot of these bigger companies come up and a lot of these big organizations that have scaled, it's been a race to the bottom, but it's also been a let's flaunt the big commissions, let's flaunt this. And it's like, we've really never done that. Not that we shouldn't, or I think there's anything wrong with it.
Or in-house, right?
Yeah,
like locker room conversations, that's fine. But when you're posting Big Check Fridays on the internet,
and your consumer's going to see that,
it's like, man, these solar guys. I had people.
But do they do it as a marketing tactic to recruit?
They just do it to show off, man.
Oh, that's different.
They just do it to show off.
Some people will just do it to show off, and it's like. And then people will wonder in 5 years why we're back down to capped commissions and, you're only going to get 3% of this. Correct. And it's like, because you guys showed your ass.
Look what's happening in the wholesale industry, real estate.
Yeah.
Compliance is here. It's in South Carolina. It's in Oklahoma. It's in Chicago. It's spreading like wildfire.
In Las Vegas, where I'm from, with solar, you have to be a W-2 to sell solar out there.
Compliance and isn't there's something about the welcome calls now out there as well?
2 welcome calls.
Yep.
But guess what? Right. That only tells you everything that you guys have been saying, that you're gonna have to become a legitimate businessman.
Correct.
To be able to be in this industry at some point.
Yeah. Well, and that also means collaboration is it's a necessity now, right? Yeah. It's no longer the days of, you can just, and I had a conversation with one of a young gentleman that I helped train when he first came in because he wanted to branch out on his own. And I said, look, I was I thought it was going to be just sales and sales and sales. And I said, what made me a good sales leader didn't make me a good business owner. Actually, it contradicted everything, right? Yep. And so I said, just so you know, like, I'm rooting you on. I know you guys will do great things, but just know that it's not just what we think it is.
It's not the title, right?
Correct.
People chase the title. They want to be the CEO of XYZ.
Entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It sounds good. It looks good. You feel good until you're broke.
There's 7-figure earners in this industry that have always just worked for a company selling solar. They don't even have a team.
Yep.
There's one guy in Apricot that makes 7 figures. He doesn't even recruit.
Yeah.
He doesn't even take on a recruiting conversation. He was like, hey, talk to my guy. I don't recruit. I don't grow teams. But I make 7 figures selling solar.
I actually know a guy that used to work for us back in 2018. A guy named Ryan. What was his last name? Ryan something, the big tall guy.
Brunson
Ryan Brunson.
Yeah.
He used to work with us at All In.
Yeah. I remember you mentioned it.
Great guy, by the way. At that time, I convinced him to, he was selling like, I think he was selling like pharmaceuticals, like, nutrition stuff, right? And I was like, dude, like, I see a lot of potential in you, bro. Like, you're smart, you're driven, right? You're ambitious. Come work with us. And then he came and, he started doing real estate wholesaling as an acquisition guy with us, right? And then it actually didn't work out. Like he wasn't hitting his numbers. By the way, the guy was making his calls. Like, I will never say that dude didn't show up on time and didn't put into work every single day, but the conversion wasn't there.
And he was one of the early adapters for virtual solar.
Yeah, well,
that's where he
got it, right?
And
then he leaves, right? He leaves, and then all of a sudden I see him. He's like, boom! He hit seven figure earner in the virtual solar space, right? And that's when I was like, dude, if I would say less than 1% of the solar space is virtual.
For sure.
Less than 1% of the solar space that are business owners go through their P&Ls every month, go through their cash flow statements every month, review their balance sheet every month, right?
I would say even just, we just hired a gentleman that I think he was in mortgages as well, and his boss had switched over to solar virtually. And I'm showing him our KPI tracker and our dashboard and all that stuff, and he goes, man, we're doing 20 deals a week and we didn't even have this stuff, right? And it's like, so, my point is...
Well, think of how many companies actually even have a quarterly meeting the way we just had a quarterly meeting.
That's my point is, for us, and, Sal reminded me this the other day as well as Carlos did, is sometimes because we've been in the industry for so long and we're so used to doing the same thing is we forget that we don't have a business, right? Like, you feel good. You're like, I made $1 million, $2 million. Oh man, I'm a business owner.
What do we call it? A $1 to $5 million hustle.
And I've realized that more and more because you can hear it, right? And you can be like, yeah, whatever, man. I've got a business. But then when you see the lack of structure in most organizations and also the organizational tools that might be being used, financial resources, HR capabilities, you really do realize that, like, if you just have a CEO and then a sales team, you probably don't have a business yet, right? And that's, by the way, that's okay. Like, that is okay to say, hey, I'm just more of a independent guy that likes to do his own thing and run a team. But
I'm not really here to build a real business.
Yeah, but the thing is people have convinced themselves in their minds that they do have a business.
Well, and that's because solar was so good.
Yeah.
Right at its peak. It's like real estate too. When real estate's hot, the worst realtors still get deals.
Correct.
But when there's a market correction, all of a sudden you got to tighten things up and you got to run it like a business.
Yeah, you got to grind.
And so you got a decision to make. Continue doing things the same old way, and you just you're gonna go down with the times, or it's gonna bring out the best in you and actually collaborate, right? Because not everybody's got the capability. Like, and that was the thing. Everyone got a deal, right? Anybody could walk into like a Titan or a place like that, and they were desperate enough, especially like when other installers were trying to come up, where they would let people circumvent, right?
Especially during COVID.
Yeah, it's like, I'll give you a deal directly. I'll give you a deal directly, and they messed up the game.
Yeah.
Installers didn't realize they were shooting themselves in the foot.
Correct.
Because just because you say, hey, I don't want to work with Cesar anymore.
Yeah.
If you don't give me my deal, I'm gonna go work somewhere else. But then they're like, they said yes to that guy. And once they said yes to that guy, they start saying yes to everybody.
Yep.
And they probably had 80% of their dealers that shouldn't have been dealers that ended up costing them their company a lot of the times, because what happens to people that do bad business, if they have a $50,000, $100,000 chargeback, they just go somewhere else, man.
Correct.
They're not going to work that off.
Correct.
But when you have someone who's a real business owner, bro, just out of ethics, it's like, no, man, we're in the hole with these guys. We got to get this. How many deals is that? We got to, we got to get it out, right?
Yep.
And then we've been in those situations where there was, money that's pending there, and we had a decision to make. Do we leave them hanging and we go somewhere else? We could have, right? But that's what most dealers do. They'll just say, oh man, I got 120,000 in the hole. I'm just gonna go start working somewhere else. Wow. And as a matter of fact, like a lot of the times people would get, because of their track record. I had offered like, here's 300,000 off up front. Here's 250, but come with us. We want to work an exclusivity deal. No, we're good where we're at right now. You know
well,
what
that's
I mean?
also the thing that came up, right? Is shortly after is now everything's exclusive.
Yeah.
Oh, well, exclusive to us, and it's like, okay, well, are you exclusive to us?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing.
Why are you trying to tie me up, right?
Well, to me, it makes no sense, because we all know that when you give everybody just so much rope, Most people don't maintain their discipline.
Unless you got some equity in the
for sure
other side, right? Maybe.
Yeah. But like most people just don't. They need that accountability. They need that structure because guess what? You're not going to go hit the doors. You're not going to go make the dials. You're not going to go do as much as you typically would do when you have a team that all has a bigger grand vision than just your $500,000 vision that is, let's be honest, $500,000 in solar by yourself, if you have no distractions, you could do it pretty easily. Like if you're not managing a business, you're just going out to sell, you could do that pretty freaking easily, right?
With less liability.
With way less liability.
You're controlling your own client base.
Yeah, so to me, it makes no sense why everybody's brand. It does because so many people have been screwed over right now. But at the same time, it makes no sense because it's like, to me, that means that it's more time to hunker down with the right people and to build something that's sustainable.
And we're going to see some bigger names still. We haven't seen the end of it. From the financial side, everyone's favorite products right now are at risk.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, we're getting a lot of insight from the financial side because of the play that I'm telling you and the people that we're working with right now.
Yeah.
They're already giving us, I can't publicly talk about that because at the end of the day, it's
confidential.
Yeah. But you don't.
But
be
everything
surprised.
that happens
the
in
big
the dark
names,
comes
and
to
then
light.
whatever names come to mind is probably they're already.
Oh my God.
But they don't. It's everyone's favorite things to push. Because when things are hot, right? They're when they're better than everything else.
Correct.
There's a reason why, right? And they have a window of opportunity where either they hit it or that strategy wasn't meant to be long term anyway.
Correct.
And so, we're gonna see more. To your point, more of those products. That are popular even to this day. People are being probably hundreds or thousands of those being signed nationwide right now.
Yeah.
That are like starting now. They're gonna realize, well, we're not getting MP1s for those people anymore. We're gonna have to wait till PTO from them.
Yep.
Because that's the beginning of the end for those finance products.
Yep.
So it's gonna still get tighter, but I see it as a window of opportunity. We're already kind of like. We can talk more about that, for sure. But so it's exciting, right? Because it's when you've been able to stick around, right? Just stay the course.
Yeah.
Too many people jump ship, and they tried doing too many things, and now they're doing hardscape and they're doing
Fiber
roofing and they're doing
everything.
And I'm more than happy to collaborate with anybody in that space, right? But when you're a solar guy, and if you've been a solar guy for 5-6 years, just because things got a little tight, all of a sudden you're looking for the next soft door.
Correct.
Right? If that's all you're doing it for, then I don't think that's the right move.
Look, I miss those days in solar where you could just walk up to the door, and even in Arizona, I stayed off of Jackrabbit, off of that strip in Buckeye.
Yeah.
For 3 years, I never had to leave there. Obviously, I would leave when I would train my guys and go travel to Vegas, but for the most part, most of my self-generated deals were all off of one strip because you could go and be the person in that neighborhood as long as you knew what you were doing and doing it the right way.
Bro, I was in Yuma for 10 years.
And
bro.
It's
got 32 streets.
Now it's like Arizona, from what I'm seeing in Arizona specifically, and, you'll have all the door-knocking kings tell me otherwise because, everybody, like...
Wow, you got some crazy labels for the
Yeah.
Solar Bros, the door-knocking kings.
Well, because, for me, I don't
funny.
understand. You have certain people, and I respect a lot of the door-knockers because I've been one for 5 years, right? So I have a tremendous amount of the hustle mentality, but I think that we get bigoted at times when we're like, oh, well, if you join a door-to-door industry and don't expect to hit doors, then you shouldn't be in the industry. It's like, well, maybe you just lack innovation, and maybe that hurts your ego.
How I feel about door-to-door.
Oh, I was going to tell Cesar, this is the most excited I've ever been in the industry because through the opportunities, there's so much to be done virtually that there isn't able to be done door to door.
I just never understood it, right? Yeah. So that's one thing that we were known for in the real estate space. So you ever heard of a guy named Sean Terry? Sean Terry?
Yeah.
Sean Terry's a legend, right? He's a pioneer. I love that dude. Good friend of mine. I came up under Sean Terry and a guy named Nick Ruiz, Alpha Home Flipping back in the day.
Okay.
Right? I came up under them, and all they were teaching was, seller, like, go physically to these seller appointments, right? And I was like, man, everything I've ever done has been on the phone. I'm not gonna draw, because I did it. Like, I did it for like a year, where it's like 4 seller appointments to try to lock up a deal, you know, a real estate deal, that was my day.
Yeah.
If I drove here, it would take me 30 minutes and drive there, and then I'm there for an hour or two, and then I drive to my next appointment.
Yeah,
and I was like,
2
bro,
hours
this is
in.
not sustainable.
Right.
Yeah,
2 hours in for one conversation.
Right? Yeah. Well, watch this, right?
Yeah.
So then, you know, I'm like, forget that. So in 2016, I start sending some direct mail to Vegas. That was my first. That was my first virtual market, Vegas, right? I started sending because I knew Vegas because through my old corporate job, I used to spend months at a time in Vegas, so I kind of knew where everything was, right? So I was like, well, I'm going to start in Vegas, right? Because I'm like, Sean Terry's spending a lot of money here on PPC. He's spending like 30 to 50 grand every month. I can't compete with that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm gonna send direct mail and start my PPC virtual campaign to Vegas. I spent $7,500 on pay-per-click, Google AdWords in Vegas. $7,500. I made 123 grand that month virtually.
Yeah.
Virtually, right? And that started everything.
That was the
from
end.
me.
That was the end.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm never going to a seller appointment ever
Yeah.
again.
Never.
How many
hop in
times
the
have you seen
car
the guys
again.
upstairs leave the office to an appointment?
Very rarely.
Rarely.
Well, I've seen you go walk a house, so
to buy.
yeah, to buy.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Not
So
to
I'm
lock
like,
up a
I'm like, we
contract,
don't,
though.
right? We don't do that,
Yeah.
right? I'm like, dude, what? You know, what are you doing, right?
Yeah.
So then, Sean Terry comes to my office to do a podcast at the this old podcast that I used to have is a real estate podcast. It was all in entrepreneurs, right? Sean Terry walks in, and this was like 2018, right? He walks in, and he's like, "What are all these guys doing here?"
Yeah.
You're right. I'm like, it was like,
Yeah.
I'm like, they're locking up deals. And actually, Sean, what's his name? Ryan Brunton. Brunton?
Yeah.
Brunton?
Yeah.
Brunton?
Brunson.
Okay. He was there, right? So Sean Terry comes in to shoot the pod, and he's like, what are all these guys doing here? And like, brother, we're locking up deals. What do you mean you're locking up deals? I said, yeah, we're getting deals right now, right? And he's like, really? And he starts kind of, you know, listening and shout. He's like, oh my God, he's talking to the seller right now. And he's like, oh, I say, oh, and by the way, we're locking up deals in Texas, California, Nevada, you know what I mean? Like Arizona.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God. Right? He's like, really? It like blew his mind.
It's the efficiency of it.
For sure.
The efficiency. Now, you got to deal with the elements when it's hot.
Yeah.
The short days. Like when Vegas, in the wintertime, it's nice, but
4:30.
it's already dark.
But
right?
again, bro, logistically.
Shoot, the windy season in Vegas,
bro,
getting all the dust in your face for 5 hours.
Right? Let's just talk logistics. Okay? You're going to go hit 80 doors, right? I'm going to make 300 dials. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That same door you're going to hit, I'm going to dial to it. I'm going to call that same person in that owns that house. It's like at the end of the day, right? Numbers are numbers.
Correct.
You know, and that's why I when I got with Garret, I was like, hey, brother, because, you know, Garrett's always done really well door to door. You know, he's a door to door king.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like,
Door
he's
to door
done,
bro.
He's a door to door bro, right? He's always done extremely well, and I'm not knocking any of the door to door guys because
Yeah, you can make money,
at
man.
the end of the day, people are still making money, right? But I got with Garret because I saw the potential of solar. You know, I saw it because even back in 2019, I had a small company called Solar Fuse with one guy, and he was doing 12 solar deals a month virtually, right? And we were dealing with Titan, or do they have some kind of home office in Tucson? We were getting our panels from Tucson.
Pretty sure they were getting a warehouse or something.
So I don't even know where we were getting this stuff, right? But we were doing like 12 consistent deals month in, month out. And then we shut it down in around 2020. But I'm like, no, there's opportunity there.
Yeah.
There's opportunity there. I'm like, the solar space is where the real estate wholesale space was back when I started, you know, back in like 2013. So we're behind, right? And if you think about even across the entire nation, what percentage would you guys say? I'm gonna ask you guys both two questions because you guys have been in the solar space long enough to know everything from Cali to Florida up to New York and to Seattle, right? All right. In your opinion, and then I'm gonna go to Cesar. What percentage do you think of the solar sales organizations are virtual right now?
I would say 1 to 3%.
1 to 3%.
And it's typically usually only the bigger companies that do it well.
Okay.
Right.
Here's my next question. what percentage of the solar sales organizations run their operation like a real business?
Well, I would say
not a hustle.
Yeah, still 1% because the only people, if you're gonna make it in virtual, you have to run it like a business, right? Like, because door-to-door guys are lazy. Like, they just are. Like, they weren't trained. Most of them, and it's not their fault. Most of them are not trained to follow up.
They're doing the hardest thing, right?
Correct.
They're driving.
They're lazy on the follow-ups and things like that, like CRMs and stuff like that.
They're lazy they're operationally lazy.
Correct.
Right? They're not physically and work ethic lazy, right? They're just lazy when it comes to building a business with departments and leaders.
Structure.
Exactly.
Well, what's easier, dealing with and managing a bunch of different departments and having to overview all that, or just saying, hey, I'm going to go knock a door today, and I'll probably make $5-10 grand in one day. And guess what? And most of the time, if you have a great installer, great EPC, you should still keep in contact with your customers if you're a decent sales guy, but most of your stuff is hands-off on door-to-door, right? And so I think that's the main difference of why people are scared to make the transition, is because it's a lot more hands-on.
Yeah, it's people that have just been doing it that way for so long that they've made really good money doing it.
For sure.
So
that was me. I've never been more committed to virtual than over the last week and a half.
Yeah.
100%, by the way.
Well, I think
that shifted for them.
That's
now it's like virtual or die, right?
Yeah, I'll never touch a door
That's
again.
where we're going.
There you go.
That's where we're going, you know.
So let me ask you, Cesar. You know everybody in the space. You've been in the space long enough to know what everybody's doing, what everybody's not doing, right? What percentage of sales organizations out there are virtual right now?
Man, I would say less than 5% that are true virtual. I think everyone's looking at it now.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody wants a piece of it, but they don't know where to start.
And I see a lot of people that'll start and then they'll fall off of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And they'll resort back to what?
Door to door.
Because why?
Because that's what they know.
That's the proven model, right?
And so that's where I think everyone's at least opening up that window, but there's a lot of skepticism within the organization. And you have the solar bros. They'll be like, "Oh man, you lazy! You want leads handed to you, bro? Let's go hunt. We're hunters. We're gonna go get it." Right? So there's that culture. There's that culture within organizations, and so
it's like David Goggins or some shit.
And you have that. You know, the companies is like, well, I don't want them to stop doing it. Yeah. Right? If it's getting them results to go to freaking Arkansas for 2.5 weeks, lock themselves up in their Airbnb with 20 solar bros.
Yeah.
That's cool, but it's not sustainable.
Well, and it's definitely
not a lifestyle.
Not if
you know what I mean?
You know, for me, it's like the reason why I started building team, I became a manager after month 1, right? Because I wrote on my goals. I was like, I asked them, I said, who was your fastest promoted manager? And I came from the construction industry where I was a safety specialist, so I was in leadership roles, and so. But I saw everybody. I was like, man, so you have to like go out every single day, huh? And they're like, yeah. And I talked to this guy. I'm like, okay, well, you're making $700,000. Okay, but I see you have a little bit more freedom than everybody else. I kind of like that.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's super simple. It comes down to what type of opportunity are you offering to people long term? Especially, I have 4 kids, you know, so going to these blitzes nowadays, because the blitz model is a very popular model now, and it's a great model.
It's still very effective.
Very, very effective.
You go through numbers at the end of the day.
Correct.
20 people knocking on 200 doors every single day, you're going to get your deals.
You're going to catch some fish, bro.
Yeah.
Well, and when you're out of town, there's a different level of focus, right? Like, it's like, hey, bro, we came here
to do this.
Yeah, we're grinding. Like, I'm not here to fuck around. I'm here to get to it. And so
I've seen them do it.
Yeah,
I've seen them blitz.
And I will say that if you're going to knock doors, it's a blitz model works a lot more than a year-round office model. There's too many distractions for people at home to come into the office, go knock, because then oh man, guys, I'm gonna have to take off because whatever.
My baby mama's not picking my daughter.
Yeah, and since they're typically the ones that don't have a traditional job, then anytime anybody in their family needs something, they call them. Because everyone else has a 9 to 5.
Correct.
It's like, hey, where are you at? Oh, I'm over here knocking doors. Well, I need you to go do this for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's super distracted to the whole organization, and they don't really stick to the numbers that they say they're going to stick to.
Correct.
And when you're in a blitz, you have no choice.
Yeah.
Here's my next question for you, Cesar. What sales organizations out there, right, from a 1 to 100%, do you feel are running their companies like a real business?
Man, probably like, again, for less than 5%. I mean, your numbers were a little tighter, but I would give the industry a benefit of the doubt. But
why there's so much potential in the solar space?
Yeah. Because you didn't have to at one point. You could make money. Solar was
No,
so
you
good
didn't.
and you mistake.
But it's still just a hustle at that
Yeah,
point.
you mistake money with the building a business, right? And
Correct.
so going back to
I for sure did.
Yeah.
I for sure did.
We didn't.
You get to see, like, you've seen everything now, all right? Being together now for a year, you're like, oh my God, 25% of my earnings this month went towards marketing.
Yeah.
Oh man, 30% of my earnings went towards payroll.
Correct.
A lot of guys in solar came from making 30, 40 grand at some, Sprint store or something like that. And then they did
become a solar bro.
$160,000 in solar. They think they made it in life, even though there's a bunch of holes in their game.
Yeah.
Because 160, that person could have made 500.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of holes in their game. But they're observing the number from 30 to 160, not the 160 to where they could potentially be at.
Oh, 1,000%.
So they'll just repeat that same process year after year. As soon as they cross 100, 120, 130, they're like, I'm making it, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, the industry rewarded a lot of average activity, talent, whatever you want to call it. And everyone was a six-figure earner, even if they had average skills. So they were
super average.
They were earning above their pay grade.
Matt could earn six figures in solar.
The
media guy.
Look, I could train my 7-year-old to make 6 figures in solar. Like, I really can. Because if you have a process that's so dialed in, look, you've seen Blaze. I've had Blaze since the day after Blaze graduated high school, right? And you're absolutely right. He came when it was 1% in APRs, right, and all these different things. And Blaze is selling deals because the process is dialed in, and he could do that. But he's a baby-faced kid who just got out of high school, right? And so when I saw that, whenever I would do group interviews, I'm like, look, you could suck at this and still land over 6 figures. Like, you could be absolute dog shit, and you could still land over 6 figures.
It's almost like being a lazy realtor.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I got questions for you guys, and we'll start to wind it down with this. Where do you see the next 2 years going in the solar industry?
I see
what is it going to take to win?
It's going to condense.
Massively.
It's going to be heavily condensed, right? You're going to see a lot of collaborations. I think starting to happen
For sure.
You're going to see certain installers that start rising above the rest, and you're going to see a lot more relationships where we don't depend on the EPCs to pay us.
For sure.
That's still wild to me, bro. I don't.
I think it's going to be a direct relationship between sales orgs and bank, not a middleman like your Good Leaps, your Mosaics, or something like that, like actual bank.
Yeah.
Right, because if there's already somebody doing that, I don't. If you ask someone, hey, would you rather get paid directly from the bank and secure your paycheck, or would you rather us pay your installer and you trust them enough to pay you?
No, we'll pay them when the work's done.
Yeah.
Right.
And guess what?
That's more
going
sense.
to incentivize them to go get the work done a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right.
So I think that's what's coming in the next 2 years. The companies that adapt to that, I think, are going to be the strongest companies.
I got good news and bad news for you when it comes to the virtual model. I think that very few people. I think everybody is going to want to do it.
Right.
But I believe that very few people are going to be able to do it. That's just what it is. And because they're going to go through a month or two, right, of the building process or the scaling process, and then they're going to freak out. Oh my God, right? Like, oh, we're not converting the leads. We're spending money on marketing, right? And this isn't happening, and that's not happening, and we're not making any money. Back to the doors.
Right. That it doesn't cost us any money.
I went through it, and I'm probably emotionally, physically, spiritually, I'm probably one of the most disciplined people mentally. I have a different switch in my brain. So if even myself was having those thoughts, then I know it's going to happen to the weaker people.
And then you came back all banged up after 2 months of hitting the doors. We had a level 10 meeting, bro, and this dude could barely walk, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Right? He went back to the doors.
Yeah.
Right? He went back to the doors, and I'm like, and he crushed it. Like, the team went whoop, right? Like, they just, right? And I was like, bro, come on. Like, you're 30, you got kids, right? You got a family, bro. Do you really? It's 120 degrees outside right now, bro. I'm like, brother, when? And he's like, that's it, I'm done.
Well,
he's
you
like,
know,
I'm done. I'm going.
Yep.
He's like, I'm building this thing.
You got to go all in.
Yep.
Yeah, you do, and
burn the boats.
That's the thing I'll say to the people that are thinking about going virtual. Is you have to treat it exactly the same as you kept the mentality of door to door, right? You have to track the metrics. You have to run the team the same way. Everybody's doing what they need to do, because most people, they don't understand that virtual is like door to door takes no cash, right?
Yeah.
You can go, we can put on a shirt. When I first started the business, I had a janky printed shirt with a clipboard, no office, no website, no, and I sold 6 accounts in a week, right? And I was like, oh, this is great. This got the business going. But it's not that way for virtual. You're going to have to invest in yourself when it comes to virtual, and you're going to have to invest in the processes and systems. And the people that are willing to wait on that investment to come to fruition are the ones that are going to win, right?
You got to run it like a real business.
Run it like
you
a
got
real
expenses,
business.
overhead,
Yep.
the cost of leads, all that.
But that's okay. And let me tell you why that's okay. Because whenever I take a look at any business, right, these are the questions that I ask myself. What's the income potential? Right, if we get this thing dialed in, right? Is this scalable?
Right.
Door to door, bro, that is a very difficult model to scale, right? The freaking trend, like what do you call the turnover on your reps is just like outrageous, right?
And you might have a good summer, but then it just flips like that by the winter time.
You're like, damn, where's everybody at? Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, hey, what's the income potential? Is this scalable? Is this exitable?
Yep.
You can't exit a door-to-door company.
That's a great point. Because if I work for you guys and I do door-to-door, what are you really providing for me besides the red line?
Nothing really.
So therefore, as soon as I find a
Motivation.
better red line,
Correct.
I'm gone.
Yep.
Motivation.
And that's what happens. The organization, people within the organization, they'll make their money, and then they find a deal, a side deal, and they find an extra 5-10 cents to be able to offer those people and say, hey, come work with me and I'll give you more money.
Correct.
And that's it.
Which is disgusting,
because
by
there's
the
no
way.
value really technically if
There's
all
no
I
honor,
do is
bro.
now if I'm doing virtual and you're providing me leads and a system, a dial, whatever it is,
I'm providing you
the tools.
I'm providing you an office. I'm providing you, a CRM. I'm providing you a computer. I'm providing you air conditioning. I'm providing you a headset.
So it's
I'm providing you,
And also
it's gonna
culture-
take more
core
than
values.
5 cents to take me somewhere
Correct.
else.
core values,
Correct.
culture,
Yeah.
right?
The
Environment,
relationship, bro.
right?
The relationships. Proximity,
I'm
all of
man,
that.
Well,
it's
it'll
gonna be
also
tough
get
for me to leave
real.
it.
I foresee us by the end of the year having W-2 setters,
right.
W-2 closers,
Yep.
right? And so
Guess
what also
what?
happens in that is stability
Health
with
benefits.
benefits. Yeah,
Health
correct.
benefits, right? Now when now you are incorporating. Now you are in the solar industry incorporating. And if you think about the percentage of companies out there, whether you're an install company or a sales company, right? Sales org,
Yep.
not a lot of these companies incorporate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's not easy. You know, we've been going through it for a while now. So, what do you see over the next 2 years?
Yeah, I see regulation is not going to be letting up. The regulation is going to continue, and that's why, for me, whenever we negotiate with EPCs, it's always it's not a dealer. Like I don't like when people call us dealers. It's a partnership, right? And so the regulation is going to get hit even heavier. I think that, certain markets, you see like sending people out to the doors in 120 degrees in a market like Arizona is just, it's not super feasible anymore. It's not the soft doors where you go out there and you're crushing all these doors, and people will debate me on that, and that's fine. I've been doing it at a high level. But I think you're going to see a lot more people attempt to switch to the virtual model and a lot more collaboration, like Cesar said. But the important part about the collaboration is you're going to see the right people collaborating. And like I said, I think it's going to get to a point where like Cesar said, the banks are going to be paying us and going through that route. A couple of products that are being pushed right now will probably not be pushed at a really high level. And for me, it's if you really want to create some sort of business, the virtual model is going to be the best way to do that. But outside of that as well, if you want to offer some freedom to your employees, right? How cool is it to say, hey, Cesar's going to go on a vacation for 2 weeks with his family to Hawaii. He just wants to chill with the fam, but he can still also operate his business because it's a virtual model. And so for me, having 4 kids and having my family that I've always had to be on the road for the last 5 years. I mean, when I was in Vegas 5 days a week, you know, and I would come back to Arizona, my home, on the weekends. And
That's
so
crazy.
you know, that took a huge toll on. I saw the difference it made on my oldest
The
boy.
longevity of a door-to-door guy versus the longevity of
you
a
can't
virtual.
be 50.
You know what I mean?
Well, I also
Like,
think
you
of the
can't be
skill
50
set, right?
Indoors, bro. That's hard.
Well,
Like,
let's
that's
be
a tough
honest.
racket.
Most people in sales, they like to spend their money, right? And as you should. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money. Do whatever you want. But most people in door-to-door are not trained to be sales professionals. They are trained to go knock the door. I like to call them marketers more so, because that's what they're doing, right? They're marketing the product, and yeah, they're going to sign loan docs, but solar is such an easy sell that if you know how to articulate it at a simple level but a high level, you're going to
Logical and
close a
emotional,
lot of
right?
deals,
Yeah.
right? But what sales guys are not typically trained on is how to track the leads, how to work a CRM. And if we know that 80% of all deals are done on the 5th to 8th touch,
Right.
most guys aren't even trained on how to go to the house 5 times, right? They blow
They're just
past
hoping
that
to be
door.
the 7th or 8th touch
Correct.
when you're there. And
Correct.
You know.
And it does happen.
Yeah,
it
it
happens
does.
a lot. But for me, I think that you also get the ability to train people who are inevitably going to be in sales for the rest of their life. You get to teach them a skill set the right way.
That's right. Well, fellas, it's been a great conversation.
Man, thanks for the cigar, bro.
Yeah,
We gotta
thank
do
you,
it.
brother.
We got to do it more often, right? Thank you for everybody. Thank you anybody that's watching, listening. Thank you for tuning in. Do me a huge favor: like it, share it, subscribe, comment, do everything that you can to get this out there. I appreciate you guys tuning in to Convos and Cigars. We'll see you next time.